Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our fifth workshop for this rulemaking. My name is Amelia Boyd. I am the program manager for the WMC and the facilitator for today's session. This workshop is being recorded and we'll post the recording to our YouTube channel soon. The documents we'll be discussing are available on our website at wmc.wa.gov. In this slide deck, the globe, which links to our website, and YouTube icons are clickable and will take you directly to those resources. For attendees, if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, please use the raise hand function. We'll call on you as soon as we can. When offering comments, please avoid reading aloud any written remarks that are already included in the materials. These workshops are intended to be collaborative with a back and forth exchange of ideas about the proposed language. Before we get started, I'll take a roll call of our panelists and staff. When I call your name, please introduce yourself. Marlon?
Good afternoon. Marlon Basco with the Department of Health, and I'm a policy analyst supporting the Commission with rulemaking.
Thank you. Ms. Blake?
Good afternoon, Christine Blake, public member of the Commission.
Dr. Chang?
Hi, Poshan Chang, family practice. I'm also one of the commissioners.
Marissa?
Marissa Courtney, licensing manager for the Washington Medical Commission.
Bonnie?
Hi there, Bonnie Gregory, licensing fiscal analyst with the Commission.
Danielle?
Hi, I'm Danielle Hacker. I am the administrative assistant for the Washington Medical Commission. Nice to meet everybody.
Thank you. Heather?
Yeah, good afternoon. Heather Carter, Assistant Attorney General and Legal Advisor for the Commission.
Thank you. Kyle?
Good afternoon, everybody. Kyle Kiernan, I'm the Executive Director.
Micah?
Good afternoon, Micah Matthews, Deputy Executive Director for the Commission.
Thank you. Dr. Domino, please introduce yourself and then begin the script.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Domino, and I'll be the presiding officer for this rules workshop. Today is Monday, July 27th, 2026, and it is now 1:07 p.m. The meeting is being held via Teams webinar. The rule being discussed today is regarding WAC 246-919-010 through 246-919-520 and WAC 246-919-602 through 246-919-700, which set standards for allopathic physicians or MDs. The CR 101 or pre-proposal statement of inquiry was filed as WSR number 25-12-014 on May 22nd, 2025. Ms. Boyd, please present our proposed timeline for rule development.
Thank you. So here's our proposed timeline for this rulemaking, which may be adjusted as workshops are held. Are there any questions about this timeline? If so, please use the raise hand and I will call on you. I do not see any questions.
All right, well, thank you. We'll now work through the rest of the agenda items. At around 2:50 p.m., we will pause the discussion to review next steps and dates for future workshops. The next item on the agenda is a discussion of the proposed changes to WAC 246-919-330. Ms. Boyd, please present the proposed language.
All right, give me just a moment. Find my agenda. All right, the first item on the agenda is 330. Get my computer to work for me here. All right. So we made a couple of changes to this section, which is about postgraduate medical training. Let me get things situated here. Sorry. Apologies. Okay. The changes that we made are these two. So it's a new sub C and a new sub 5. So sub C is part of 2, which is the commission approves only the following postgraduate clinical training courses. And we've added in this programs resulting in the trainee becoming eligible for ABMS board certification. This one and the proposed 5, which we'll look at in a second, have been on the training verification form since 2008. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments about the addition of sub C?
I do not, but Amelia, can you increase that a little bit?
Sure. Oh, let me do one more thing too. I'll make it a little bigger.
Thank you.
And I know, hold on just a moment.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Probably a little
Thank you.
easier for everybody else to see.
Thanks.
Right. Dr. Chang, any questions or concerns about this addition?
No question.
All right. Then we will move to sub 5. Again, same thing. This is an addition to this postgraduate section where they're adding eligibility will be determined on a case-by-case basis at the discretion of the commission. Again, this has been on the verification form for like 18 years. So do you have any questions or comments about this section?
I do
No
not.
question.
All right. So are we good with both of these changes then?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Are you good, Dr. Domino?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. This one fixed up. Okay, the next item is to talk about 430, which is requirements for maintenance of licensure. And then we have some comments that are in the materials. We pull up materials. Yes. Apologies, my bookmarks are not working. Okay. Hold on, I'm going to have to open something different. Okay, so we have witness comment number 1, which is this one. And it's about 3:30.
Hey, Amelia.
Go ahead.
This is Jeb from the State Medical Association. We've had an opportunity to talk to colleagues in medical education and physician certification since the October workshop, and then even since the comments we submitted in January and in April. And so our thinking has evolved just a little bit on this, and it might be more effective for me to sort of verbally provide our comment on this section, if that works for you all.
Sure.
Great. So like I mentioned, we've had an opportunity to sort of think about this and speak with more folks in the field about the proposed changes. And what I'll share today is largely aligned with what we did submit in writing, but we do have a request around this. Just in terms of our thinking, our priority for this section is to ensure that any certification pathway recognized by the commission for the purposes of maintaining licensure reflects education, training, and assessment standards that are not just equivalent, but like demonstratively equivalent to those that are required by nationally recognized physician certifying organizations. And so to that end, we appreciate the thoughtful comments that were submitted by the American Board of Medical Specialties on April 16th. And what they offer is, rather than naming specific certifying organizations in rule, they recommend establishing objective criteria that define a legitimate physician certification. Those criteria include maintaining specialty standards, administering a psychometrically valid assessment, enforcing a code of professional conduct, and requiring both initial and continuing certification. And we think, relevant to the proposal before you today, we believe this is a more durable and transparent approach in that objective standards provide a clear framework for evaluating any program, but not just the one contemplated in the rule, to help ensure that there's consistency across the landscape. So we would encourage the commission to incorporate this framework into the rule and evaluate any certifying organization against those objective criteria before recognizing it for purposes of maintenance of licensure. Thank you.
So commissioners, do you have any questions for Jeb?
Well, why did we recommend specific organizations?
Micah?
Does anyone, Micah? Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just been historically what's been in the rules. So we've recognized ABMS, ACGME accredited residency programs. We have recognized a few years back ABMS participation, and this is around the maintenance of certification blow up or dust up with ABMS, and so people wanted to have more input, I guess, or more credit given for participating in that, getting the certification or getting recertified. And so that actually was born out of a WISMA annual meeting discussion. So that was there at their request and the request of some of their members. With respect to recognizing other organizations, we've been historically fairly hesitant to do that. And there's I mean, I can get into more of why at a later time, but in this case, this came from a practice group, a practice group and a early adopter of the CE program for IMGs, or clinical experience program, and so really what we're talking about here is setting aside the fact that ABMS is recognized as the monopoly, and they're asking us to make changes in our rules that would benefit them. Setting that aside, we have to recognize that by taking out the recognition of the AAGP pathway, we're giving the clinical experience licensees and the IMGs no other pathway to board certification. And the extension of that means that they are going to have additional difficulty getting employed at a hospital, getting on insurance panels, and anything else that requires board certification to, say, get privileging. The other issue I think that we need to recognize here is that I have personally been involved with American ABMS boards, specifically the Internal Medicine Board, trying to get them to give us a time frame for when they would have a pathway for board certification, or at least board eligibility for IMGs who were not necessarily within the residency system. They still don't have a timeline. And as we all know, the IMG training pathway going into practice, that's been an issue that's been present for 20 or 30 years. So we're still waiting. Substitute Senate Bill 5185 actually requires us to engage with ABMS, and we fully intend to continue to do so. But until such a time, for us to remove that language prevents the IMGs who are going to be dependent on trying to get some form of board certification. That removes their pathway and isolates them out. So I guess I would sum up by saying it doesn't hurt anyone to have this in the language as an option. It absolutely does hurt the IMGs if we remove it.
Thank you, Micah. Go ahead, Jeb.
Yeah, we support the inclusion of IMGs into the physician workforce. I think, relevant to this specific section, what has not been proven to us is the rigor of the level of this board. Yeah, there was a presentation back in October. We asked for follow-up materials to help us understand what this is, and we didn't receive those. And so I guess I'm just struggling with the hesitancy to, in the spirit of ensuring rigor, include some level of standards in your rulemaking.
Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, so this is in lieu of 100 hours of CME every 2 years, you could obtain this certification, and that would count for your rules. For 3, whether or not, I'm not going to comment on whether or not you include which entities, but just it says obtain certification. But number 4 is meet requirements of participation and maintenance of certification. So number 3 is the initial certification. Is that what number 3 is? Because if so, I think you want a time frame in there. Because I don't think you want to say one time you're certified and then you're done with all CE or CM maintenance. So, okay, I think you've got that for the second one, but not for the first. So we just need to do some cleanup so that you make sure that like one certification is not like you're one and done for your whole career. See what I'm saying?
No. Yeah, thank you, Heather. That
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And I actually think that, yeah, there it is right there. It's actually X'd out in the 4 years preceding the renewal date.
Yeah, well, because of the commas and stuff, it's only applying to the second one. So we need to add it in both or kind of reword it. But anyway, that's my comment on those. Sorry.
Okay, so the within 4 years is actually right here, but I think what Heather's saying is we need something here in sub 4.
So in 3, it says obtain certification, and then from a board ABMS, or if they're IMG, from this other one. I think we just need to. I can probably help you with the wordsmithing. You just want it the one time you can count it, right? Within 4 years of.
I think Heather and Amelia, I think what's happened here is where it says become certified, unless we have that language up in 2, which I don't think we do, we need a new sub 4 and to undelete that. Because there's certification and then there's maintenance, or there's
Right.
initial certification, then there's maintenance of certification. And
Right.
so the historic WSMA ask was recognize maintenance of certification as a way to satisfy MOL.
And that's 4 currently.
Right. But what's deleted is the initial. So by restoring what's deleted right under sub 3 and creating a new sub 4, we have those two organizations and being
Gotcha.
certified within the last 4 years.
Yes, that'll work.
So because of that, do we want to defer this one so that we can rewrite it? I mean, or do we just need to
I don't think rewrite has to happen. We just have to undelete that and make a new sub 4 because that's what was there for, I'm not sure how long.
Yeah.
What does the new sub 4 need to say? I think that's where I'm confused.
Exactly what you've highlighted. Well, what you highlighted at the bottom. So what's what's struck out right now? That needs to be the new sub 4.
And this will be new sub 5 then?
Correct.
Got I am all together now. Sorry, the tracking is turned off. Okay, say no to this. Don't know why it keeps doing that. There we go. And make this sub 5. Why that's there. Okay. So this is what you would like, right?
Yeah, and then the first clause of 3 that you can delete because it would be taken care of in 4.
Oh, got it. So
Although you might need to
hold on.
do the lead in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just be consistent and say become certified instead of obtain certification.
Does that read okay?
We need to have the provision that says if they're ineligible to be ABMS certified, because that's the whole deal here.
Okay. That better?
Well, my question is that now that you're adding that, is does 3, should 3 be preceding 4 and 5?
So you want them in the opposite.
Right,
Right.
because you're talking about we recognize the ABMS as the primary one, but but if they couldn't do that that path, then the 3 should become 5, I guess. Rather than it being the first options.
Just ignore this. This is just a link for me, that D10s. Okay. So that is what you would like. And then, Jeb, you had your hand raised. Did you still want to make a comment?
Yeah, it's just I raised the question of why there's a hesitancy to include standards for meeting this requirement in this rulemaking, and then just make the other request that we made back in October to get some follow-up information from this group. about their equivalency with other national certifiers.
And I think I'll respond to some of that. Outside of the ability of the commission to go and verify or validate what the certification is, recertification, the enforcement of the code of ethics. We haven't had psychometricians on staff probably for decades, going back to when the state actually administered a licensing exam. We've long since delegated that to USMLE and let them handle that, because it's a tough bar to hurdle with respect to doing psychometric validation. We simply don't have the ability to do that on staff. And so that would be the one thing. The other thing is, it's up until this point, it's been an acceptable standard to name a specific entity. And I do find it difficult to accept that ABMS now wants to remove their name and put in standards that I believe are probably crafted to the point that they feel that only they can meet. Again, this is a scenario where if we take away, if we leave it in, we are not harming anyone. We're providing an alternative pathway when ABMS is not an option. So it's a very limited slice of individuals. If we take it away, we are handicapping them.
This is my last comment on this section, but you had just noticed there's no relevant expertise on staff to determine which certification bodies meet this bar. And so just curious sort of what the process was for including ABGP. Was it reviewed by the commission, like subgroup, like subcommittee, or it was just because it was like suggested by one group?
So to be clear, I said we didn't have the resources on staff to deal with the psychometrically validated exam. The other things we could do, it would be a resourcing issue. But as far as where it came from, yes, it did come initially raised from a group who was working in this area almost alone for a number of years, and identified this as a barrier that they would like addressed. So like all rulemaking, it can come from a petition. We did get the presentation from the group itself. We've also had a number of discussions with the IMG work group where the issue of this particular group and what they do was brought to them. So that's been the process. But again, this is up to the commissioners at this point to decide if they want to include it.
Right. Thanks, Micah.
Go ahead, Ashley. Oh, you're muted.
I was muted. All right.
There you go.
Ashley Tomasek, I'm with ABMS. I did want to flag, just in terms of this definition, this is actually something that was crafted for the National Defense Authorization Act, taking language from the American Medical Association and the Institute for Credentialing Excellence. There are probably at least other 20 organizations outside of ABMS that meet this definition. So when the NDAA was passed, obviously, ABMS was one of the organizations that met this definition. It was an attempt to not have to list all possible board certifiers. And so ABMS, AOA, ABPS, numerous others do meet the definition as laid out in these 4 points.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner. So at this point, this is what we're proposing. Adding this change in.
Well, from my personal point of view, working in a department that has more non-US citizens who haven't done US residency programs, and they're extremely competent and outstanding physicians, I'd like to make, I think, the international physicians are really important. We need them in our society. We need them in our state. We need them in institutions like mine, University of Washington, where we may not be able to attract as many people who are board certified in the US. And so I'm happy to leave this in.
I am too, Dr. Domino. I would just Amelia, I would put in is in front of ineligible.
Yeah, I think for now I'm okay leaving this in, because I'm just because I as I recall the maintenance board started when I graduated from medical school, and that was back in the 90s. And at times there's a lot of people from a lot of family physicians, and they say this is not fair, because they already have the maintenance board certification, and yet there's yet another layer that added in, and a lot of changes and so forth. I think, to me, it's sad. That's where the creations of the American Board of General Practice came in. At that time, it was in defiance of the American Board of Medical Specialties. But I think they have evolved just from the time being. And I think just from what we discussed, we do want to give alternative pathway to the IMGs. So obviously they're encouraged to go through the traditional pathway, but we know that sometimes they just not possible. So to me, this offers that that Section 5 offers an opportunity for them. So I'm okay with this for now.
Heather, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to be clear that this is in your CME, and just so everyone knows, you don't approve individual CME classes. So this is just if a person, instead of reporting all 100 hours and having to record all of that and supply maybe proof of it, if they got audited, they could just, instead of showing their 100 hours every 2 years, they would just say, well, I was certified, so that meets my CME requirements for that year. So it's, you don't normally approve, if you approved every CME program, your meetings would last days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a question for Heather and Amelia. I noticed in I think 330 is where there's a change in seeming the cadence of the CME. Does that mean we need to change any of the 4 years time frame in this language here?
Oh, you're right, because
Marissa is on 2.
We're proposing to change it to every 2 years, right?
Currently every 4.
Right, and aren't we proposing to change it to every 2? Okay, let's go.
Yeah, you may want to
to
change it to 2. You're correct, so that it lines up, because you went from 200 every 4, you're going to 100 every 2. So yeah, I would match that up. So
Very
and then
fine.
yeah, and the other,
Okay. It's 430, isn't it? It's 430.
Yeah, 430 and subsection 2 would need to be updated as well in 430. It also has but you may have already done that.
Okay.
Yeah, scroll down a little bit further, Amelia, on this one.
Sure.
2 also needs to be updated. Oops. Yeah, all of those are going to need to be updated to 2 years instead of 4. At least one of the 2 years preceding, I guess, it would be now.
So one of the 2 years, right?
I think so.
And then in the 2 years is right?
Yes. That one's good. Good catch.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Okay, Commissioner, so you discussed this adding this sub 5. And so I think the consensus is that we approve this as it is now, correct?
Yes.
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 Dr. Domino's good. Okay. And I just want to add that this is not the last bite at this apple. We are going to have a few more workshops where you can ask questions about this section, add comments about this section. So. Okay. So our next agenda item is 620, which is in a separate document. So let me run over there, which is about cooperation with an investigation. So this is where we need to look at a couple of comments from WISMA. Okay. Okay, so WISMA's comments on this section, they asked for some clarification that physicians are required to only provide records they have access to. So we made some changes based on these comments from WISMA. And they're in 2 and 3. Do you want me to read them or do you want to read them?
I'm reading it right now.
Okay. Trying to get all of 3 in here.
Looks good to me, Amelia.
Yeah, I thought it looked good. I think it
Yeah.
gives, the only problem if someone's away for 2 months, then it could be an issue, but we all have internet.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. And they know what's pending. So I think.
Yeah.
So we
good.
will, thank you. We'll deal with sub 2 first. I think one of the requests was that we add in something about only records they have access to. And so that is part of what we're addressing in sub 2. And then we're requesting that if they know where the records are, identify where they are. If they don't, then they can just say, I don't know. So as far as sub 2 goes, are you okay with the way it reads right now?
Yes.
I'm okay. Yeah.
I thought that was good language.
Yeah.
We will add in it. All right, and then sub 3, the request from WISMA was to clarify what may meet the request for an extension. Like what are the circumstances of when an extension is granted? So I reached out to our investigations team because they're the ones that grant this extension. And for the most part, they don't have any sort of like policy or anything written down what meets, because then that would really box in both the respondents and the investigators. So their response was that 99% of the time they grant the request because it's almost always reasonably, it's a reasonable request. So they couldn't even give me an example of when they haven't. So we changed this language to sort of say that, to where if it's a reasonable request, then
I'm good with it.
I'm okay.
I'm fine.
Go ahead, Kyle.
I just want to stress, as a general rule, we don't take action against somebody for not providing records. We give them every opportunity to actually do that. Part of the reason that this was revised in 2020 was because we were having a lot of problems with unnecessary delay. And so that's one of the reasons that the old language, the current language, stipulates that it has to be the commission chair or the executive director. This isn't something that can be delegated because, again, we were having problems meeting timelines. And that's one of the other, I guess, occasional critiques that we get from folks, including WISMA, is that our investigations take too long. Well, this sort of quandary that we end up in is one of the reasons that investigations can take a fair amount of time. But I do want to stress that we've always worked with respondents in investigations when they approach us regarding extensions. Frequently, sometimes there are delays in getting assigned counsel. Most physicians that carry malpractice insurance have a rider that provides for representation if the commission or the osteo board comes to them seeking records or something like that. But I want to stress that this is something that's pretty closely regulated. There are numerous times when we simply, the respondent is not cooperative, isn't responsive. And typically what I tell people, just so you all know, is, okay, submit the case without the information or without the statement from the individual and let the reviewing commission member take a look at it. But we try very hard not to charge people under the RC, under the UDA with failure to cooperate. But it does happen. And so again, it's walking a fine line between this. The one thing that I would say is, I don't know if this is in a later part of the rewritten section or not, Amelia, vesting that authority to grant further extensions with the ED or the commission chair is definitely appropriate. I don't know if that's in this version. I apologize. But this is something that we do grapple with on a pretty regular basis.
It may be in a different section, but this is I think this is the end of this, the edits to this section. Yeah. Sorry for the scrolling.
I'd ask that we go back and maybe take another look at this, Amelia, under section, I think it's the last part of 3, and add the stipulation that the ED or the commission chair be the person approving extensions beyond 30 days. It's currently, I can put the current language in there.
Are you putting it in the chat?
This is Heather. I hate to throw a wrench in it. I need to think about how you would delegate a decision, an actual decision to someone other than a panel of 3. In any event, I wouldn't, maybe not put it in the rule and have it as if the commission does decide to do that. I think you can have that just in a delegation agreement or a delegation written document. You wouldn't need, I don't think, to put it in rule. But I want to think about that for a second too, maybe. But you could leave it as is. I can get back to you guys later.
Okay.
Take a look at the the language, Heather, that I dropped in the chat is from the current role. And again, this is one of those things that kind of from an administrative standpoint has proven to be super helpful in keeping our investigations within time limits.
So with that in mind, do we want to skip sub 3 for now? I mean, I know you like the language, but it sounds like we may be adding.
I would say skip it for now then.
Yeah, skip.
Okay. I think we can go ahead and look at new sub 4 and 5 and talk about those. So these are the new sub 4 and 5.
Looks like Jeb has his hand up, Amelia.
Oh, I did not see it until just that second. Go ahead, Jeb.
I just want to thank you for considering our request. That's all.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I see. I see where you got that language from, Kyle. 1B. Okay, do you have any thoughts about 4 or 5? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you have questions? Make it a little bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm
Looks
okay
fine.
with it.
Yep, agreed. Looks good.
Need to do 2 little things here. Little note here. Talk about that one later. And then these 2 are approved. All right. So that is all that's in this section. Let's go back to. So the next section we're talking about is actually in the definition section, and we're talking about new proposed sub 10, which is the definition for postgraduate training. So the comment from WISMA was, as drafted, this language appears to grant the commission overly broad discretion to define what constitutes acceptable postgraduate training, potentially supplanting established accreditation standards set by the medical profession. The profession has long regulated education and training standards through recognized accrediting bodies. And then they say, we urge the commission to retain clear references to established accreditation frameworks rather than expanding its authority in ways that could dilute training requirements. So this is our proposed changes to, we're adding in a definition of postgraduate training. That is our proposal. So with that in mind, Jeb, did you have any additional comments about this one?
No additional comment. I think part of the challenge of this is just for us is just sort of operating in a vacuum, and it's really helpful during these meetings to hear some of like the context around why these types of things are being proposed, because I think it could be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Amelia, this is Heather, where's that postgraduate training used in the rule? I'm trying to search for it and I'm
let's take a look.
not finding.
That might actually be 330, the one that I erroneously named earlier. And I'm trying to remember why I'm pretty sure I know why we did this one, but I want to see the section on postgraduate training before I comment.
So it is 330.
Hey, look at that.
Look at that, Micah. Hold on just a second. And then the only other time it's mentioned is in the fees. Okay,
Right.
so
Okay.
here's the section as it stands now.
And we're not
So to-
touching this, we're just adding this as a definition of postgraduate training.
Right, so I
Right.
think we must have had some sort of request, or, I mean, we've been drafting these rules since over
Forever.
a year ago. So, I'm not sure when this one was in particular was added, but we either had a request to add a definition of postgraduate training, or, sorry, it
Mhm.
moved, or someone on the staff felt we needed to define what that is.
So
I
it
think
deals
there's
with the
two.
IMGs, right? That's the whole thing, because they're not accredited by the American Board of Medical Specialties.
No, there's three issues coming at play here. The first is we didn't have a definition of postgraduate training, which led to some interpretation issues. Historically, I don't want to say that it's happened recently, but we've had historic interpretations that fellowships didn't count as postgraduate training or would not count towards licensure for that period of time. So that's been a historic back and forth that I'm personally aware of. The second thing I would say is the IMG issues. We do historically rely heavily on ECFMG for them to validate any education, but the training is a little bit of a different animal. The final thing that has happened, and I think we'll see the through line here, and I'm not sure what part of the chapter it is the cessation of dual accreditation by Canadian medical schools by LCME. So when that happened, July 1 of 2025, all Canadian medical grads became instantly IMGs. And regardless of where they were in their program, which then required them, instead of how the statute recognizes them now as equivalent, it then shunted them over to the requirement that they would have to do ECFMG and USMLE in order to be considered for a license. So that's part of that speaks to that's recognized by the commission or accredited by an organization recognized by the commission. That's trying to mitigate the Canadian issue, especially because we're a border state, and if you're in the northeast or northwest of the state, you're probably getting a traveling Canadian physician.
So this is Heather again. I just have a couple of comments. Since the rule says postgraduate medical training, I think the definition needs to line up and say postgraduate medical training. And then the first in subsection 1 of 330, that does give a definition. So you need to either move 10 to the beginning of 330 and just put the definition within that section if you only use it there. If you use it multiple places, keep it there, but they should mirror. They are a little bit different right now. So you want to just make sure whichever you choose, you use in both spots. And fellowships are included down in 3. So it should, yeah. I'm surprised that was an issue, but in any event, I would add, the medical, and then have the 331 mirror what you've got in 10. So you don't have two different definitions of what postgraduate medical training means.
And Heather, I think historically 3 did not read that way.
It might have been just in 2024. It looks like it was amended, so that might have been a recent one.
Well, what was amended in 2024 was sub 4, because it used to say 2 years of consecutive training, and that created a huge barrier. But no, I think 3 got amended in 2020.
Okay. Yeah, in any event, I would have subsection 10 and 1 the same. They're a little bit different right now. So just pick one and go with it.
So, I mean, this is the only place that we reference. We reference it here, and it's referenced in the fees. the fee schedule, the 990, but that's the only place we reference postgraduate medical training. So it makes more sense to me to put the definition in 330 and not put it in the definition section. Let's see.
I think that's
Makes
the
sense.
rule,
Yeah.
code reviser. If it's more than one spot, you put it in definitions. If it's only one, then put it in the section it's from. So yeah, I think you can do that.
So I think we would need to change one here. I'm gonna take this whole thing with me. And then okay, so I'll make a little note here real quick. We're just gonna add this over here. Okay. So I think we need to change one to be more similar, with the caveat that we already talk about internships in sub 3. So I don't think we need that piece from this proposed definition here in sub 1, because it would be repetitive. This is approved. Hold on. And we're going to say that is recognized by the commission or accredited, right? Wait. Because in this new definition, Micah, we do not say approved.
Right. I gotta jump over to 1871.055 to take, or I think it's 051 to take a look.
Okay. Let's say approved.
Okay, so 050 says that the applicant has attended and graduated from a school of medicine approved by the commission. And then when it comes to training, it's the program acceptable to the commission. So that's what the statute says. So I would assume we would probably want to mirror that concept.
Okay, so take out the recognized part. Approved by the commission. I see.
Yeah, your current rule says approved. I think.
Yeah, it does. So what from this definition do we even need to retain? Because it seems like everything is covered in some way or another.
Could you scroll down a little bit more, please?
Sure.
If you could keep going.
Yep.
Is Marissa on?
Yes, she's here.
Yep, I'm here.
Is there anything else that we needed to add for you all? Or is what we have now fine?
I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we need to make this change that I added in here? Period of clinical education and training? Or can we just leave it means clinical training approved by the commission?
I'm not sure it matters either way. I mean, if a lawyer says it does, then it does.
Does it matter, Heaven? I don't think she heard me.
Heather, does it matter if,
I'm sorry, what was that?
Does it matter if we keep, like, this was the edit that I made, but I don't think we need it. A period of
No.
clinical education. Okay. We're gonna change that.
I mean, education and training, or I mean, I think we know what we're talking about.
So I think after this discussion, we can leave 330 sub 1 as is, and then don't add a new definition for postgraduate medical training. That's what I got from this conversation. Does anyone have any concerns about that? About deleting this?
No concerns from me.
No concerns.
No problem.
Okay. So we shall reject that change. Is that okay with you, Jeb? We just deleted it. I'm assuming that's all right.
Yeah, I think you guys worked that through. Thank you very much.
Sure. All right. So our next, too many screens here. Okay, our next item is 370, which is about the specs examination. And of course, Micah just ran away, but let me go look at this. Okay. So here's the comment that we have about the specs examination from WISMA. So I'm going to do some fussy business here. Hold on just a second. Trying to get all of this on the screen, which is very difficult. Okay, so their concern is adding, I believe it's the sub E. So we're proposing adding this sub E, which is as an alternate examination for IMG unable to access the LME due to hardship as determined by the commission. Specs exams offered under this process will be approved by commission delegates on a case-by-case basis. And WISMA's comment says that SPECS was designed as a reevaluation tool primarily for physicians who have previously practiced, and been licensed in the U.S., including those returning to practice after time away. This says, also it has a note, according to FSMB, you must hold or have held at some point an active unrestricted medical license in the U.S. or Canada in order to apply for SPECS. So I think the point from WISMA is that USMLE and SPECS are different. And that's why they are opposing the addition of sub E.
Mhm.
Jeb, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that's the long and short of it, Amelia. And I think if the commission see fit to include this specs provision in the rule, we'd request that the commission clearly define the hardship circumstances under which it could be used. So I think the intent is to have a narrow exception for folks, like rather than an alternative like licensing pathway. So that would be the request if the commission moves forward with this.
And it does look like that you like the letter said or comment said, specs you're required to be licensed or currently licensed or have had a license to be able to sit for it. So I don't know if it's even going to work.
Right. I can appreciate where Jeb's coming from and with the way this is worded.
Did you have something to add, Kyle?
I was just gonna say Mike is back. He does have a comment on here, and it is something where the oversight committee has allowed us to use the specs exam. So even in the absence of already having a US or Canadian license, they've provided for that. Marissa might be able to give you better examples of what those hardship cases look like. Typically, it's the inability to kind of get your transcripts from your medical school because of some sort of persecution or general conditions on the ground in foreign countries. But Mike is probably a better person to delineate the hardship exemptions than I.
And he's back.
Hey, so there's a couple of pieces of history here, and so the first is that the legislature did direct us in statute to explore creating a hardship pathway, and that was as part of the whole international medical graduate process. As Kyle lined out, we've absolutely run into this. And I think Dr. Domino could probably speak to some folks even in her department, let alone at UW, who have had to experience this. But for doctors coming from Syria, Ukraine, Iraq, Iran, we deal with these in licensing where they can't even contact their school because they have family that still remain in the home country that would be exposed to risk should the school cooperate or should they know that they're trying to get that information. So with that being said, we did explore how to do an alternative to USMLE. The line we drew is we were not willing to host or administer the exam. And so that led us to our conversations with USMLE and eventually the Specs Oversight Committee. So there's a formal committee of appointees, just like with USMLE. You apply to be on it, and you manage the exam. And so in this case, I petitioned them to have a conversation about doing a case-by-case basis for potential hardship folks. So again, this is a very small slice of people, and I'm not even, and Marissa can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure we've even had one person come through yet.
No, we have not.
Yeah, so this is formalizing the acceptance of the Specs Oversight Committee, saying that they would allow us to send folks through, not for our usual process, which is typically a licensing exception function where maybe they've been out of practice for a while and we want them to somehow prove their knowledge. And so Specs is a go-to that we use frequently. But it's also good to remind folks that the Specs exam uses active USMLE Step 3 questions. That's what's on that exam. So it's not a lesser form. It's not old questions or anything like that. It's the same question bank from USMLE Step 3 that they use currently. Any questions?
I don't see any hands raised.
No, and I'm happy to leave it as you wrote it there.
Okay.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm fine with it, but just the question is that I guess this is a hardship can be interpreted differently, and Mike, I just gave an example. It's like, if they graduate from a medical school from a war-torn country, should we specify that's what that is, rather than people interpret differently, say financial hardship or emotional hardship, rather than that. Just trying to minimize it, say it's not going to be uh, generalized to other issues.
Well, we actually have been given direction in statute on that, and I am thankful for it. So, Substitute Senate Bill 5185 actually delineates the ability for us to consider hardship, and one of the primary exemptions is, for the commission to even be able to consider something a hardship, is the inability to pass ECFMG or USMLE. So, if you can't pass the exams, that's not a reason to go hardship. We won't accept that. And that's expressly prohibited by the statute.
So is it the hardship just in obtaining, you know, education records? Is that, or are there other hardships?
So we have to understand that this is a process. And for the IMG, the process starts once they contact ECFMG. And ECFMG will go and validate the transcripts and make sure that the education that they went to is actually an existing medical school. This is common for medicine and in nursing. There's in nursing, there's probably, I think there's 3, maybe 4 services that do this. In medicine, there's 1, and that's probably just due to the total number difference of nursing professionals versus medical professionals worldwide. The candidate goes through the ECFMG certification process, and as part of that process, they have to pass an English exam as well as USMLE steps 1 and 2. If they can't do that, if they can't get the records, or ECFMG can't get the records for the candidate, they are completely locked out of the application process.
So I'm just wondering if that would help define hardship more easily. If so, like the doctor just said, we aren't looking at financial hardship or other sorts of it. This is really because the fact that your medical school may no longer exist. Something like that.
Right.
But
If I may,
hardship obtaining, I'm just trying to think if we could
if I
define
may,
it further.
Senate Bill 5118 talks about this a little bit. It says hardship scenarios the commission may consider include, but are not limited to refugee status, persecution in the home country of the applicant due to beliefs, ethnicity, or other demographic considerations.
Thanks, Jeb. I think I got the bill site wrong on that one. I said 5185. You have the language that I was talking about.
Yeah.
That's because 5185 is all you think about right now.
I wish it wasn't.
So I can pull some hardship scenarios. Let's see, include but not limited to blah, blah, blah. Okay. Whoa. This is going to be ugly, so just fair warning. And I'll do a little fussy cleaning up, but this is from that bill that Jeb mentioned. I'll make this a list instead of just a common delineated paragraph. Do we want to include what they may not? I think we should. What we may not consider as a hardship.
I think licensing and myself would be very thankful to include that language so we can, I'm thinking of three particular applicants that I'd love to point to the rules.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Okay, so again, I will do some editing of this just to make it a better format and easier to read. So we're just going to include those hardship scenarios. Is that helpful for you, Jeb, since you provided that information? I'm assuming it is.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. So now I just need to make a note that I need to clean this up. Okay. Okay, commissioners, how do you feel about this change? Are you good with the change? You already liked this language.
Yeah, I'm good with the addition and the change.
I'm good too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ms. Blake?
agreed.
All right.
Yep, agreed.
All right, so I'm just going to put down here that this was approved. Other than the formatting, which I will. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your work on that. And then the last section on our list is 460, which is the CME categories. Let me go look at the comment. It's in my way. All right. 460. Let's see where that one's at. Okay. So Wisma's comment here. Whoa. Sorry. The draft full language on CME needs clarification to avoid ambiguity and ensure consistency across various credit types. To avoid confusion, the rule language should clearly designate accepted sources of CME credit aligning with recognized accrediting organizations. This clarity is essential for physicians to understand which CME activities are legitimate and acceptable for license renewal. Specifically, we recommend clarifying the meaning of recognized providing organization. It urges us to replace this with recognized accreditor, which I think we have done. Okay, let's ignore this for now. I think it's later. Recognize healthcare institutions. See which sub that was in. I thought it wasn't here. Maybe not. I thought we had changed it at one point. Actually,
If we do change it, I believe it has to be in the section highlighted.
this one here?
Yeah. Because a recognized accreditor or provider won't be providing category 3 through 5. That's kind of a self-study kind of a vibe. There, and the other folks can speak up about Cat 2, but I think really we're mostly talking about category 1 issues.
Guys, providing organization. We must have changed that language at some point since the date of this letter. That's my assumption. Nationally recognized.
Isn't it the change was before was from the WAFP talking about adding the AFP to this category 1? It's recognized and to call that out instead of just AMA.
That was a request from AAFP. and so their concern, I believe, grew out of the possibility of not being recognized. I believe we've always recognized them, just as far as in the process of any audits that we do, but they're asked to be specifically recognized because they do, I believe, sit outside of the ACCME process. They are their own issuer and accreditor, and so that's the reason for that ask.
Okay, I'm going to scroll a little bit. I just need to make sure. So my assumption is that since the date of this comment, we have changed the language here. So I'm going to ask Jeb to let me know if we need to meet this request. Is there something else we need to change within this new language? I believe it's been changed since this letter was written, which it's kind of old now. Yeah, January.
Yeah, I think we submitted it first in October, so it's been a while since I've thought about this. We got this feedback from our director of education at WISMA. I could run this past her and circle back with you all.
Because the request we got was from WAFT. So we changed the language based on this letter from Washington Academy of Family Physicians.
Is that the letter for this section?
Hold on. We must have more than one. Oh, it's this one from last year.
Yeah, I think we were okay with this.
Okay. So I would just need to know, because I don't see where we have comment number 2. I think we've changed the language since this request was sent in. To change it from recognize providing organizations. Is that in here? That particular phrase is not in here right now.
Yeah, it has changed, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Can I run this past someone who knows a lot more about this than I do?
Sure, absolutely.
Great.
So we can just defer this one. I mean, yeah. Because I do feel like we've changed this language since we got that letter in January. Because I don't see a reference to it anywhere else. And like Micah said, it wouldn't be in 3 or 4 or 5. Okay. Okay. So that is the last item on the agenda. I know we still have about half an hour, but unless anyone wants to talk about something that we've already talked about and we didn't resolve, which you are free to do right now if you'd like. And then I can talk about our upcoming agenda items and the next steps if you don't have any questions or comments about what we talked about today.
I don't have any, Amelia.
Yeah, I'm fine to move on.
I'm good.
All right, let me add a little comment here. So we'll defer that to a future one. All right. So let me stop sharing this and start sharing something else. Okay. All right. So our next workshop is scheduled for August the 31st. So at that workshop, we'll talk about the things that we didn't get to today, like that were deferred, that last section for comments. Hopefully that gives you enough time, Jim, to get some feedback. And then we will have an open forum where we will have the commissioner panel and any interest parties may ask questions about or discuss any section that's open as part of this rulemaking. That may be a short meeting, it may be the full 2 hours, I don't know. And then at our October 12th workshop, we will discuss our proposed new section, which is 604, regarding physicians providing advanced procedure support to optometrists. We are waiting on some information and a letter from the Board of the Board of Optometry. They had a business meeting here recently where they said they were going to send us a letter to talk more about their concerns about 604 as proposed. So we're waiting on that. I'm hoping October gives them enough time. And then right now, November 9th is intended to be our final workshop. We will follow up on anything that is still pending from the previous workshop. And then we will finalize the draft language at that workshop. So anything that has not been approved by the time we finish that workshop that day will not go forward. So there'll be you've approved much of the draft, but at the next workshop, there may be some things that come up as part of that open forum. So just fair warning, we will need to discuss all of those things that day on August the 31st, and then we may have to revisit them again on October 12th and November 9th so that we can finalize the language that we've been working on for over a year by that time. And then we will request to initiate the next step in the rulemaking process, which is the 102 at the November 20th business meeting. Does anyone have any questions about what is coming up?
No question.
No.
All right.
All right. So if no one else wishes to speak, I'll close the workshop. Thanks everyone for participating.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.